Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my movie vlog. My name is John Campea, and this is our special companion video. You know, we do the John Campea show every morning and open mic every afternoon, but quite often we don't have time to get to all of the live questions that get sent in, so we do these companion videos to take all those questions that didn't get a chance to get asked on air and answer them here on these videos. So, without wasting any time, let's dive right into it. And the first question today comes to us from Jason Nagel, who writes, will Peter Jackson be involved in the new Lord of the Rings series in any way? For those of you who may not have heard, Amazon just bought the rights, spent like $250 million for the rights to get the rights to do a new Lord of the Rings series. Now, apparently it's going to be a prequel series to the events of Lord of the Rings, and they're going to be spending a lot of money on it, like $250 million in production just for the first season. Adding on top of that, the amount they paid to get the rights, this is the most expensive television show ever made. Anyway, as far as I know, no, Peter Jackson is not involved in this project whatsoever. So unless something changes, unless Amazon brings him into the fold, this is going to be happening without him. So it's going to be a whole new series, a whole new set of things. All right, next one comes to us from Gio, who writes, just realized that Ready Player One will be the first Spielberg film I'll see in theaters. That's awesome. Not my favorite director, but best director all time without a doubt. Well, I mean, he is both my favorite director and, in my opinion, at any rate, the greatest filmmaker of all time. No other director can do everything the way he does. He does period piece, drama, political thriller, comedy, animated, action-adventure, fantasy. I mean, you name it, he does it all. And each film feels completely unique from the next. He's simply the best ever, and good luck. I'm really encouraged that you're going to go see Ready Player One. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Rob Turner writes, did you get my no more super chat / FAQ email? I get over 100 emails a day, Rob. I can't quite remember. If you ever want to write me something like, it's best to write me an email for this, not something in super chat, to be honest with you, but I can't remember off the top of my head if I did, because like I said, I get over 100 a day. Mr. President writes, how did the MCU Cap learn to fight? Serum gave him enhanced strength, speed, and agility, but how did he become a badass martial artist? Well, I think, in my opinion at any rate, I mean, he's been fighting his whole life. I think, like scrawny Steve Rogers knew how to fight, he just didn't have the physical capabilities to go along with it. Know what I'm saying? Like, I think he knew how to fight. I think we saw him even when he was getting beat up in the alley. He gets up, he gets to stance, he goes, I can do this all day. He didn't have the strength, he didn't have the speed, but I think he's been learning to fight his whole life. And then adding on top of that, once he did get into the military, learning how to fight even more, and then the super serum gave him the muscles and the speed to go along with what he knew, and then he's just been training ever since. So anyway, that's the way I interpreted it personally. It's a good question to ask, but the way I interpret it is that he always knew how to fight, it's just that he never had the physical tools to go along with it. Trifecta Kush writes, hey John, do you think they will ever make Peter poor again and have to rely on just himself to be a superhero, just regular Spidey, no Mr. Tony Warbucks? I like that, Mr. Tony Warbucks. Like if Tony dies or goes bankrupt. Hashtag Iron Spider. Yeah, I hate the Iron Spider. Anyway, it's possible. Yeah, I think they could totally go back to just a simple Peter Parker, you know, living off paycheck to paycheck. You know, made his own Spider-Man costume, isn't Iron Man Jr. Yeah, I do think at some point they'll probably go back to that. They'll probably get back to the roots of the character that way. And it'll probably be a nice little story for them to do it that way too, actually. Good thought. Eric Blank writes, hey John, I met you at a meet and greet in the Lux Hotel 1.5 years ago and asked if I could interview you for a college assignment, but you never responded to my emails. Still a Patreon supporter though. Hey, listen, sorry about that, Eric. I mean, I probably get about 10 emails a month from people asking if they can interview me for college assignments and things like that. I mean, minimum that many a month. And unfortunately, with the sheer amount of emails that I get from people, I read every email that I get. Much like the comments on my videos, I read them all. I can't respond to them all. That would be a full-time job in and of itself if I try to respond to messages that come in, because literally, like, if you count YouTube messages, like I probably get YouTube messages, people sending me direct tweets, people sending me emails, all Facebook messages, all that kind of stuff, probably 300 to 400 messages a day. And I simply, I just can't. I can't respond to them. I just can't, unfortunately. I wish I could. I wish I had a personal assistant that could do stuff like that for me, but I can't. So I do apologize if you haven't gotten a response from me on that, but I just simply don't have time to get back to them all. But hey, good luck on your studies, man. Murray for Us writes, many fans felt The Force Awakens was too similar to A New Hope, but when The Last Jedi came out, they felt it wasn't Star Wars. So is Rogue One the perfect blend between the two films? I like them all. I mean, I'm one of the, I think, majority of fans who liked The Force Awakens just as it was and who liked The Last Jedi just the way it was. But hey, film is subjective. Not everything works for everybody. I mean, so there's a bunch of people out there that what they did with The Last Jedi, and I thought most of it was really bold. There are a bunch of people out there who didn't like it. That's fine. I don't think the idea is finding... What Disney can't do and shouldn't do, what no filmmaker should do, is just try to be fan service. What will the fans like? Well, let's just do what the fans like. No, tell the best story you can. And then see if the fans like it. You know, the great NFL coach once said, those coaches, he was talking about NFL coaches, those who listen to the fans are destined to be sitting with them next week. And I completely believe that. I 100% believe that. So they shouldn't be going, oh, the fans did this and the fans did that. Oh. No, just make your best movie. And sometimes that means the audience will love it. Sometimes it means that they won't, but make it your movie. And I think that's the way it should. But I did love Rogue One. I absolutely adore that movie. And it is a nice kind of representation of those three films go across a broader spectrum. So I do appreciate that. Chris Parker writes, as you say, Spielberg knows adventure and how to delight better than anyone. How amazing would a Star Wars film be under his helm? Dude, I've been calling for that for years. For years, I have been begging and pleading the movie gods to give us a Steven Spielberg directed Star Wars film. I mean, I don't know how much, and actually even I came out of Ready Player One the other day, and apparently somebody else who agrees with me here, I came out of Ready Player One, I said, oh my God, Ready Player One's amazing, Steven Spielberg is the GOAT, and Kevin Newman. Anyway, Kevin Newman's a different guy altogether. Anyway, I got a response from a number of people saying that they would love to see a Steven Spielberg directed Star Wars film. And it just has to happen. It just has to happen. I mean, forget the fact even for a second that he knows George Lucas so personally and he knows the Star Wars world so intimately. Forget the fact that he's the greatest filmmaker of all time. Just the fact that he's such a great fantasy adventure director. Then you add on top of that fact that he knows George and Star Wars inside and backwards. You add on top of the fact that he has been working with Kathleen Kennedy for decades. You put on top of that the fact that he's the greatest filmmaker of all time. You put all those things together, and you get it. So when I put up my tweet that like, hey, you know, Steven Spielberg, amazing, he is the GOAT. So then you get Kyle Newman. For those of you who know Kyle Newman, as he directed that amazing film Fanboys. So Kyle Newman responds and he says, like, just to my thing about GOAT, I didn't even mention Star Wars. He goes, yes, he is GOAT and he needs to direct a Star Wars film. And like, you're damn right he does. I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Dakota Barber writes, most realistic war movie, Saving Private Ryan for me. Well, I can't say because I have never been in the military. Other than the cadets, I've never been in the military. So I can't say. I've never been in war. So I can't say. I'm not qualified to say what's the most realistic war movie. I can certainly look at Saving Private Ryan and say, man, it feels very real. I mean, especially that opening beach scene. My goodness, if you wanted to convince somebody war sucks, show them the first like 15, 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. Good God. Speaking of Steven Spielberg. So I'll agree with you that it's Saving Private Ryan certainly feels very real. But being somebody who has never been in a military situation, I'm not qualified to say. You know, there are other people out there who have served in the military who could probably give you a much better opinion on that than I could, but I am simply not qualified to answer that question. It's a good question. I'm just not qualified to answer it. KHK Productions writes, After Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I have grown to love Coulson more than I did in the movies. Do you think he will get a little more screen time in Captain Marvel now that fans have had a chance to grow fond of the character? No. I say this all the time. You never, this actor's popular now. Change the movie to put more of that popular actor in it. That's what stupid, poor filmmakers do. That's what poor studios do. Studios that are bad and don't know what they're doing. You don't do that. You make the movie. The characters and the actors are there to serve the movie. The movie is not there to serve the actors. So that would be a big mistake. The other thing about that is not a hell of a lot of people watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm one of the stupid people who does, even though I don't like the show, but I keep watching it. I keep watching it because of Clark Gregg as Agent Coulson. I can convince him. Ming-Na's also amazing in it, but he's like the reason I keep watching. Even though I don't like the show, I love him, and I love watching that character. But let's face it, it's not like that show's a big ratings giant. It's not. So, no, I can't see that being a situation at all. I think just the fact that they're putting him in the movie at all is kind of amazing. And maybe he has a tiny role in the movie, maybe he has a big role in the movie, but it has nothing to do with, people like him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., let's give him more screen time. It has nothing to do with that. Believe me, it has nothing to do with that. Jessica Tennis writes, Paddington 2 must be forgettable, no longer #1. No, Paddington 2 is amazing. Paddington 2, I can't even get over how good that movie is. I can't get over how good the first one is. Like, so much so, it feels so strange to say this about a Paddington, movie, but if they do a Paddington 3, and I'm not convinced they will, but if they did, and it's even like 85 to 90% as good as the first two films, you're talking about Paddington being in the conversation of one of the greatest trilogies of all time. One of the greatest film series, like trilogy film series of all time. Now, would I put it ahead of Star Wars, Lord of the Rings? No, but it's in those conversations now all of a sudden. Like, this Paddington series has been so much better than it has any right being. There is simply no way these films should be as good as they are. And yet they are charming, endearing, sweet, heartfelt, emotional, like good stories, whimsical, everything. I cannot believe, again, these movies are far better than they have any business being. And I just adore them and love them. But no, like, I think Black Panther passed it for me. I think Ready Player One passed it for me, but that does not take anything away from how great Paddington 2 is. Not at all. Let's see. Ian Nguyen Du writes, have you gotten your 100,000 subscriber plaque yet? No, I have not. It's funny. I was actually just talking to my YouTube rep the other day, and I brought it up again and said, hey, it's been a couple of months now. Like, I'm approaching 120,000 subscribers now. We're supposed to get, if you're a YouTuber and you cross the 100,000 mark, you're supposed to get this YouTube, like, silver play button plaque. I got one when I was with AMC, and we got AMC over the 100,000 subscriber mark. We got one of those. And I love them. I mean, it means nothing, but it's a nice little emblem. It's like, hey, like, you did what only about 1% of YouTube channels do. And that's amazing. And I would love to get my hands on it. But I brought up, and my YouTube rep said, really? You haven't got it yet? I'm like, no one's even reached out to me. She said, let me look into it. So hopefully I'll get it soon. I'll show it to you guys once it comes in. Let's see. Jedi Knight and friend to Captain Solo writes, regarding yesterday's Special Effect is the charity. Oh, Special Effect is the name of the charity I told you about you wanted info on. I emailed you, P.S. If Space Whales help Solo make the Kessel Run, will you walk out? Oh my God, Space Whales. First of all, I'm very interested in this charity, and thank you for the name of it. Apparently, there's a charity, and I only know this through Jedi Knight and friend of Captain Solo. There's a charity that helps make video games accessible to people with various handicaps. That, to me, is fascinating. I love that notion, and I want more information on it. And now that I know the title of it, I can look it up, so thank you for following up with that. And even as a fan of Star Wars Rebels, I hate Space Whales. I think they're the stupidest things they introduced in that show. And then in the Solo trailer, we see the giant tentacles in space. Why are movie directors obsessed with giant tentacles? I have no idea. Anyway, they watch too much Japanese porn, I guess. Anyway, so I'm really hoping those aren't space whales. Oh my God, I'm hoping those aren't space whales. If they're space whales, I won't walk out. If they're space whales and they're in like the main MacGuffin of the entire movie, maybe I'll walk out. But if space whales pop up to me in a couple of scenes, I'll bury my face in my bucket of popcorn and not look up till they're gone. But I probably won't walk out, no. All right, Ian Nguyen-Du writes, are you done with The Flash? No, I'm not done with The Flash. I believe I'm all caught up, although that episode of, what was it called, Run, Iris, Run, when they gave Iris Flash powers? If they didn't take those powers away from her by the end of the episode, I would have given up on the show. But as it was, it was a story about, because of another enhanced person, they were able to swap Flash's powers out of Flash into her temporarily. She had to do something to save the day because Flash wasn't around, and then those powers got transferred back to the Flash by the end of the episode. It was fine. It was fine. I was rolling my eyes a lot during the episode, yes, but it was fine. If they hadn't taken those away from her, and they suddenly made Iris a speedster as well, yep, I would have given up on the show. I still, you know, it's really a shame because I started to grow really fond of the Iris character. And I was loving the place they were making for her in the show and the role she had with Barry and with the rest of the team. And then they did this really stupid thing where, well, I'm here now. I've got some college credits as a journalist, so I'm the leader of Team Flash now. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? That is the stupidest thing they've done. So you can say, wait a minute. So you have no science knowledge like some of our team. You have no superpowers like other parts of our team. You have no field combat experience like some other people on our team do. You are beyond a shadow of a doubt the least qualified person here. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure she should be a part of Team Flash at all. And yet she's the boss. She's the leader. Because she worked for one season as a newspaper reporter. Yay! So I'm already on the brink of giving up on the show because of that. If they had suddenly made her a speedster too, I joked around before, but it seems like on The Flash, they've been handing out speedster powers to everybody. It's like being on an Oprah Winfrey show. Everybody reach under your chair. You get the Speed Force, and you get the Speed Force, and you get... It's like everybody's a freaking speedster in that universe. Drives me crazy. And if they had kept her as a speedster by the end of that episode, that would have been the final straw for me. I probably would have given up on the show. But they didn't. And it actually has an episode, and the way it was laid out, it's actually not a bad little episode. But had they done that, yes, I probably would have walked out on it. Trevor Johnson writes, on The Last Jedi Bomber, more with The Last Jedi Bomber question. We've had like 50 people writing in things like this. On The Last Jedi Bomber question in Han Solo voice, that's not how gravitational force works. Just kidding. But I think they explained it as magnetic. Yeah, a whole bunch of people wrote in and did explain it, that it was magnetic. Some people wondering, hey, wait a minute, they're in space. How are their bombs? There were some theories about, well, they're still close enough to the planet itself that they're within the gravitational pull of the planet. That's why the bombs were released. Other things saying it was magnetic. I think the final word was that they were magnetic. I think. So anyway, so there's that. Aiden Norris writes, hey, John, I'll be heading to Burbank in a week on vacation. Do you have any recommendations of what to do and where to eat? Well, one of the things I always recommend doing, one, take the Warner Brothers tour. Take the Warner Brothers tour. It's fantastic. And I'm not a tour kind of guy. Take the Warner Brothers tour. It's a little pricey. I think it's like 50 or 60 bucks. It might be a little bit cheaper than that. It is so worth it. The things they show you and all that kind of stuff, it'll take your breath away if you're any kind of a film fan. It's really magical. Then I would say go to Universal Studios Hollywood and make sure you take their Universal tour ride. But it's very, very different from the Warner Brothers thing. Yes, they take you around these great sets, but it's also partially a ride because they have their Fast and the Furious ride, their King Kong 3D experience, all that kind of stuff is part of the tour. So those are the two things I'd say definitely do in Burbank. If you want a great place to eat, go to a place called the Smokehouse. It is where, it's funny because we're just watching the newest episode of Lucifer and they're shooting in the Smokehouse. And the whole, if you watch La La Land, the whole bar where she walks in, where she first sees him playing piano, that's the Smokehouse. They've shot a lot of movies there and it's owned by George Clooney. George Clooney's owner there and the food is just fantastic. It feels like an old Hollywood restaurant, but the food is also fantastic. You get to see where they shot a whole bunch of television shows and movies in there. Go and eat there. I would also recommend a restaurant. My favorite Italian food in Los Angeles is at a restaurant in Burbank called Market City Cafe. And it's right in downtown Burbank. It's a great place to eat. So those are the places I would suggest visiting and the things I would suggest eating. All right, last of the Time Lords writes, what's the best place to vacation in Canada? It really depends on what you're looking for. If you want a great experience of Canadian cities, then probably you want to look at Toronto, Vancouver, or Calgary. Great examples of how just great and marvelous Canadian metropolitan life is. If you want something more scenic, you can go all the way East Coast, go visit Prince Edward Island or Nova Scotia or, places like that. But probably the best place to go if you're looking for nature stuff is a place called Banff. Go visit Banff. It's in Alberta. It's only about an hour outside of Calgary. It is simply probably the most beautiful place on earth. It really is probably the most beautiful place on earth. So Banff, Lake St. Louise, they're all in the same area there. Look them up online and just be awe-inspired by the beauty of the place. It's just incredible. So those are the places I would recommend the most. Curtis Lopez writes, the video game Kingdom Hearts was brought up the other day. Yes, it was. I mentioned I'd never even played it. I've never even seen it played. It's a fantasy action role-playing game involving Disney characters and worlds. It's awesome. You know, I keep hearing about how great it is. I got to give this game a shot. I've never even seen, like, there's a lot of games I've never played, but I've seen my buddies play. Kingdom Hearts is probably the game I've heard about the most that I've never actually seen in action. So I've been having a whole bunch of people message me ever since telling me I should give that game a shot. I'll probably give it a shot. All right, Mickey Boosh, 87 writes, hey, John, have you ever had an unexpectedly strong emotional reaction to a movie? It happened to me recently, so I was curious. Oh, all the time. All the time. For really good movies, absolutely all the time. Like whether it's Best the Best, or whether it's Life is Beautiful, or whether it's Up, or whether it's... No, absolutely. I mean, that's the hallmark of a great movie. A movie that can get its claws in you in such a way that you're not even realizing it, and then when it hits you with the emotional parts, you feel that emotion coming out of you. That is great filmmaking, and thankfully, as a film fan, it happens to me quite a bit, as a matter of fact. It's a great experience. When a movie can connect with you on an emotional level like that, those are the best movie experiences. Let's see. Next up comes us from Dakota Barber, who writes, thoughts on Munich by Steven Spielberg. Watched some of it years ago and liked it, but need to find a copy to finish it. Spielberg is the GOAT, as you say. Munich is brilliant and powerful and heavy. Man, it's heavy. But it's one of those films where you will still feel it like an hour after you watched it. Like you're still going to feel it in your bones after you watch it. I love Munich. It's not my top 3 Spielberg movies, but it's one of his underrated films. It's one of those films that not enough people have seen. That and Amistad are films of Spielberg's that not enough people have watched. And it's a great film. I really enjoy it. So yeah, finish that up, and it'll shake you. Brandon Torres writes, have you seen Thoroughbreds? My favorite of 2018 so far. Love Thoroughbreds. The final film of Anton Yelchin. Really enjoyed the film. It's not my top 2 or 3 or 4, but it's a solid, good movie. Oddly, they do some weird stuff in it, a little oddly paced here and there, but very solid film. I liked it a great deal, and it's bittersweet watching it, knowing that Anton has been, we've been without Anton now for years, and this movie's now finally coming out. But yeah, it's a very good film. If you haven't had a chance to check out Thoroughbreds yet, good on you for the recommendation, Brandon. Thoroughbreds. Why don't you use the Stardust app and recommend it? Okay. Pool Eo Wallace writes, recommendation, Lucha Underground. It's a wrestling show mixed with Mortal Kombat. The main character, Dario Cueto, who runs an underground fight club, is awesome. You know what? My friend, Kaori Takei, you guys have met Kaori. I've had her on a number of times. She's talked a lot about Lucha Underground. She really likes it, has recommended a lot. I've had a number of people recommend that show to me. I do have to check it out. I've never gotten around to it, but I do need to check it out at some point. All right, Sam Fisher writes, YouTube show Because Science's most recent episode is on the science of The Last Jedi, like the orbital bombers and Leia pulling herself back to the ship. Yeah, I've had a few people tell me about that. And it's funny because I've never seen that YouTube channel. But I've had a number of people in recent weeks, specifically as it relates to the Last Jedi stuff, telling me about the channel and telling me about that episode. So that is one I really got to check out, and I got to check out soon. Jake C. writes, favorite game besides poker? Well, what do you mean by game? Like casino game, board game, video game, sports game? Like my favorite games of all time are X-Wing and TIE Fighter, and next to that's probably World of Warcraft. I don't actually play any other games in casinos or Vegas. I'm not a gambler, per se. Like, people think that because I play poker that I'm a gambler. I'm not a gambler. I don't play blackjack. I don't play roulette. I don't play slots. I don't do any gambling. I just love playing poker. I'm a big, avid poker player. World Series of Poker's coming up. I'm going to go play it again for the, I think, 4th or 5th year in a row. I'm going to go play in the World Series of Poker. But poker's not my favorite game. Like, I like World of Warcraft more than poker, but I do love me some poker. Let's see, what else? Quijano89 writes, hey John, big fan, thank you so much. Who had the bigger challenge in their film debut? Neel Sethi in The Jungle Book or Daphne Keane in Logan? Ooh. You know, I'm going to say the bigger challenge. I'm not talking about who did better or anything like that. The person with the bigger challenge was Neel Sethi for a couple of reasons. Well, the big main one, he was acting alone. It was him and a green screen and green sets. That's it. The whole movie was him acting in front of a green screen by himself, trying to imagine his surroundings and environment and doing it. Whereas Daphne Keane got to act in a real environment, which is challenging on its own still. But she also had the help of having two of Hollywood's great actors in Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman, you know, working along with her. So I'll say the one who had the bigger challenge because of that green screen issue was Neel Sethi. That's what I'll go with at any rate. Again, remember, we're not talking about who did the better performance, who had the bigger challenge. I think he had the bigger challenge. All right. Shamanth writes, what was your personal goal for Anniversary the movie? And were you happy with the results? You are the best, John. Oh, well, I had a couple of goals when I did a little romantic comedy a number of years ago called The Anniversary. And my goal was, the main goal for me was just to do it. You know, I'm one of these guys that there's a whole bunch of things people put on their bucket list, but they never do it. And I want to do it. Like a lot of people said, they want to write a novel. Well, so did I. Well, you know what? Then I just did it. I just wrote a novel. Everybody wants to make a movie. So you know what? I said, screw it. I'm going to make a movie. It was a hell of a hard work. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. From writing the script, which took years to get the script to where I really liked it. And then getting the people together, getting the money together, shooting the damn movie, then doing the post-production on it, getting it edited, learning about all these rights clearances you have to do and working with SAG and all this kind of nonsense. Just the fact that I wanted to do it. I mean, that was the goal in and of itself, to do it. And the secondary goal for me was to, as a film pundit, because I was doing the movie blog at the time, as a film pundit, I wanted to gain a better appreciation for what it is filmmakers do. And I wrote, directed, and produced it. So I wanted to have a better understanding and a better idea and just a better appreciation of what it is directors, writers, producers, all these things, what they go through and how difficult their job is. And oh God, I found out how hard their job is. I really did. So those were really my big goals for doing it. And I'm super proud of it. If it was released as a Hollywood film today, it's a big bag of shit compared to Hollywood by absolute. I'm a realist here, folks. It's a bag of crap. As somebody who's not a professional filmmaker, who just did it, I'm super proud of it. I'm very, very proud of it, and I'm super proud of all the people who did it with me, and super thankful for all the people who did it with me. And yeah, that was the thing with it. Amin writes, if someone hasn't seen a bunch of the classic 80s and 90s films referenced and used in Ready Player One, will they still enjoy the film? Oh, absolutely. I'm sure I missed about 20, 30, 40, 50 of them. Doesn't matter. The movie's a great adventure movie. The references are there. They're nice seasoning. But everybody, even if you haven't seen Iron Giant, everybody knows the Iron Giant. Even if you haven't watched Back to the Future, you know the DeLorean. You know, even if you're not a comic book reader, you know who Batman is. Like, so, but those things, those little references, those are just seasoning. At the heart, if all Ready Player One was just, hey guys, look at this reference and look at that reference and look at that reference, then it would be a shitty movie. But it's a great movie because it's not like that. You're just going to have to see the movie. Those of you who've seen already, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen the movie, go see it. You'll totally understand what I mean. You will get most of the references anyway, but even if you don't, that's not the heart of the issue. That's not the heart of the story. Isaac Marino writes, hey John, I haven't been able to watch the show live recently, but wanted to thank you for trying to say my name last week like marinara, but with an O. Oh, marinero. There you go, Isaac Marinero. See, I should have got that because I'm Italian, so I should have known. It's Mo writes, cutting the cord, DirecTV Now or Sling. You know what? I have used, now for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, DirecTV Now, Sling, and there are others as well. Hulu now has live TV options where instead of having cable, you can use DirecTV Now, have it on your Roku, and access like 40 of the most major channels. Or Sling does the same thing. Hulu now has live TV. You know, for like an extra $35 a month or something like that, you get like 30 or 40 channels. YouTube TV. YouTube now has a TV streaming service. I have used DirecTV Now. I have used Sling. I've used the Hulu service, and I've used YouTube TV. Sling is the one I use the longest. DirecTV Now ain't bad. The Hulu one isn't bad. But I believe I have settled on YouTube TV. YouTube TV seems to have great selection, good price. I love their interface. Their interface is really easy to use. And they give you unlimited DVR storage. Plus, you can use just about any device to watch this stuff. So I would recommend, well, hey, DirecTV Now, not a bad choice. Sling, definitely not a bad choice. I actually prefer Sling over DirecTV Now. Sling's actually a very good one. But the one I recommend the most is YouTube TV Now. They all give you some kind of a free trial. Test the waters a little bit. See which one works best for you, like as far as which interface you like working. It seems more intuitive to you. But the one I landed on ultimately was YouTube TV. Until the next one comes along, and we'll see. Richard Jensen writes, are you still doing Star Wars talk? Yes, I am. I've only missed two. The reason I missed two of them is because one Sunday was the Oscars. So obviously no Star Wars talk on that Sunday. Then this past Sunday, some things came up and I simply didn't have time. And that's going to happen on weekends sometimes. You know, I work 7 days a week. I put out content 7 days a week. But that means on Sundays, I got to let my family take priority. I got to let my wife take priority. And making sure I'm getting time with her and we get to do things with her family and things like that. It's got to take priority. And this past Sunday was one of those times where I just didn't have the time to do Star Wars talk, unfortunately. I still did the John Campea show in the morning, but I didn't have time to do Star Wars talk. And I'm going to let you know right now, there's not going to be any Star Wars talk this Sunday. The reason there's not going to be any Star Wars talk this Sunday is because it's Anne's birthday weekend, and I'm taking Anne out of town. So, do Star Wars talk, celebrate my wife's birthday. Got to celebrate my wife's birthday. So yes, we're still absolutely doing Star Wars talk. But this week there will not be one because it is my wife's birthday weekend and I'm going to be out of town with her. So there's not going to be a John Campea show on Sunday morning either. I'm going to do the John Campea show tomorrow morning on Saturday morning. Then after that, me and Ann are taking off for 2 days. And then all my videos will return again on Monday, but there won't be a Star Wars talk this Sunday. But yes, Star Wars talk is still on. Let's see. Dim-Sum05 writes, favorite Captain America musical number? I think there's only the one, isn't there? Isn't there just the one when it was back in the 40s and he's doing the buy U.S. bonds thing? Isn't that the only one? Is there one I'm forgetting about? I'll have to go with that one just by default, I guess. Ali Hussein writes, I'm watching Ready Player One tonight. So excited. Is Vin Diesel voicing the Iron Giant? It's going to be interesting to see how much Easter eggs I'm going to find. Yeah, because there's thousands of Easter eggs in there. As far as I know, no, Vin Diesel doesn't do the voice of the Iron Giant. It doesn't matter. Because all the Iron Giant voices, I mean, that's all the Iron Giant. You can get anybody to make it sound exactly the same. So I do not believe it's Vin Diesel doing it. Although Steven Spielberg directed Vin Diesel in Saving Private Ryan, maybe there's a relationship there and he got him back to do it. But as far as I know, he didn't do the voice of the Iron Giant. I could be wrong about that. I'm just saying as far as I know, he didn't. Tested writes, Thoughts on Benedict Cumberbatch? I love him in Star Trek Into Darkness. Oh, I loved him in Star Trek Into Darkness too. I think he's a great actor. There was that one where he played the gay mathematician. Oh, why am I forgetting the name of the movie? I think he was nominated for an Academy Award for it too. Anyway, he was brilliant in that. I love him as Doctor Strange. I just think he's a dynamite actor. And most people know him and love him for his Sherlock Holmes work. And I've never watched his Sherlock Holmes stuff, which is, you know, I should get caught up on that as well. But I really appreciate him as an actor a great deal. Alan Gonzalez writes, did you see the Deadpool Infinity War trailer? No. Don't know what we're talking about, but I'll look that up. Ali Hussein writes, I don't know if someone haven't asked you this. What's going on with How to Train Your Dragon 3? As far as I know, it's on course. How to Train Your Dragon 3, I believe, is scheduled to come out in 2019. So, yeah, I believe that's on. I believe it's coming, and it's scheduled for 2019 to hit theaters. So, unless I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So, it comes out in a little over a year. All right, next one. Harsh writes, hey, John, love your show. Thank you so much, Harsh. Catch Me If You Can or E.T., which one you like more? For me, it's Catch Me If You Can. Oh, no doubt it's E.T. E.T. by a mile. I like Catch Me If You Can very, very much. Tom Hanks, you got Leonardo DiCaprio. What's there not to like? I enjoyed that movie very, very much. But E.T. is like all-time classic. All-time classic. So all film is subjective, and I love that you have your opinion. That's great. My opinion is a no-brainer. For me, it's E.T. by a mile. Phone home, man. Phone home. Rodrigo Ortiz writes, Reign Over Me is by far my favorite Adam Sandler movie. Me too, man. Absolutely. The man has a gift for dramatic acting. I feel like he can have the potential to be nominated. Dude, I even thought he could not win, but I thought he could have been nominated for Reign Over Me. His performance in Reign Over Me easily is the best performance he's ever given. And it just made me lament all the more that he's doing this cheap Netflix schlock comedy stuff still. I get he's getting a lot of paychecks from it, but he's got to be rich by now. He could be a world-class actor. I'm not saying he is world-class right now. He could be. If he kept doing drama, I think he's just a naturally born gift for dramatic acting. Because when we've seen him do serious dramatic stuff, he is lights out. And I would love to see him do more. Would love to see him do more. And by the way, I know a lot of you guys still haven't seen Reign Over Me. Watch Reign Over Me. And if you want to develop a new appreciation for Adam Sandler and the stuff he can do, check that movie out, man. You'll be glad that you did. All right, Ali Hussein writes, what is your favorite Jet Li movie? Mine is Romeo Must Die. Oh, the great one? I'm going to have to go with Hero. Hero is going to be the one I go for. Just visually, one of the most incredible films ever made, foreign or domestic. Every single frame of that movie is an absolute piece of art. Like literally, you can take any frame from that movie and frame it, and it's a gorgeous piece of art. So I'm going to go with that one. There's a whole bunch of other ones too, but I'm going to go Hero on that. Let's see. Warrington Trainspotter 2778 writes, I think Disney/Marvel should make people sign a disclaimer if they go see Infinity War before the 27th of April, knowing they will be sued if they out spoilers. Well, I mean, you can do that, and I think in some cases they do, but what are you going to do? I mean, it's easy to track people in the industry, but you let 700 just average fans go in, all one of them has to do is whisper to somebody in their class, blah, 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 this happens. Now that somebody in the class can just out it, and they weren't at the theater, and boom, the spoilers are out. So yes, you can get them to sign non-disclosure. They're called non-disclosure agreements, or NDAs. And I used to have to do that all the time. They don't do that nearly as much anymore, but a lot of times when press would go to an early screening, when you're checking in, you'd have to sign a non-disclosure agreement that basically says, yeah, I'm vowing to not review this movie or talk about anything in this movie until such and such a date. They don't make us sign those NDAs anymore, at least very, very rarely. But yeah, if there is early fan screenings, they should absolutely make people, so at least maybe hopefully the fear of them getting the pantsuit off them if they share anything might stop some of them. Who knows? We'll have to see. I just don't know that it would be very effective, to be honest. Act Naturally Productions writes, save one, the others are erased from your memory. Black Panther, Ready Player One, or Paddington 2. Go. Oh, man. I don't know. I don't know. They each do such different things. I can't answer. Sorry. If you were trying to stump me, you stumped me. I can't pick one. Can't, because each one, because the warmth I get thinking of Paddington, the exhilaration I get thinking of Ready Player One, the incredible accomplishment of what they did with Black Panther, or like world building they did in Black Panther. Each one of them gives a totally unique, special memory. I can't pick one. I can't. What about you guys? Jump down. Which one would you keep out of those three? Not necessarily asking what's your favorite, but which one would you keep? Drew G writes, thoughts on a Game of Thrones like Magic the Gathering show? You could ask that about anything. A Game of Thrones like Dice show. A Game of Thrones like Felipe, the sentient dancing microphone show. A Game of Thrones like anything. Anything can work. Anything can work. You can make a story about Felipe, the sentient dancing microphone. If you have the right script and the right director and the right story ideas and the right tone and everything, anything can work. Hell, they made a Lego movie, for heaven's sakes, and it worked. Magic the Gathering, I don't think lends itself to great narrative storytelling. But again, if you had the right story, the right thing, the right this, sure, why not? Then it could work. But would I be jumping up and down about it? No. Alan D'Souza writes, Hemsworth angry at the Russos for Infinity War take. No, he's not. A lot of people have spun this out of thing. There was an interview where Chris Hemsworth basically said that, you know, they just finally got Thor to where he really wanted Thor to be in Thor Ragnarok, the type of Thor that he is. And he was nervous that the Russos' take on Thor wasn't the same Thor. It's gone in a little bit of a different direction. And he was telling the story of that. And then the Russos explained to him, but you got to understand, Thor has now gone through something. Because remember, we get to a place in Thor Ragnarok, but now, after that, he's about to get boarded by Thanos. He's probably going to watch Loki be destroyed and murdered in front of him. He's going to come face to face with Thanos and realize how powerless he is compared to Thanos. Thanos is probably going to destroy half the universe and nothing he can do about it, blah, 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 and it changes him a little bit. So he wasn't mad. I mean, I've seen some people going, oh, Chris Hemsworth will never do MCU again because now he hates them because of what? No. He made one statement about how he was concerned, but he talked through it with them, and he's good. So, yeah, so it's really as simple as that. K Major writes, John, I'd buy the hell out of Streep playing Princess Leia. Yeah, absolutely. You know, we talked about it. You know, let me bring a couple of these up here just for the hell of it. There's this one. I mean, Meryl Streep and Carrie Fisher go back decades. They have been amazingly good friends for years and years and years and years. One of the main things, too, about the two of them together is, and I mentioned this on the John Campea show earlier today. See, Carrie Fisher in 1987, she wrote a semi-autobiographical book. So it was kind of her life story with a bunch of embellishment. But Carrie Fisher wrote a book called Postcards from the Edge. And it's a narrative story, but it's kind of a biography on her. So then in 1990, they made a movie out of it. And Carrie, not only did she write the book, Carrie Fisher wrote the screenplay for it. And they chose to play Carrie Fisher, even though the name of the character wasn't Carrie Fisher. They chose to play Carrie Fisher. You got it. They chose Meryl Streep. They chose Meryl Streep to play Carrie Fisher. And they have continued to be friends through the years. And there is simply nobody better to take over Princess Leia. I mean, Carrie Fisher picked Meryl Streep once to play her in 1990. So who else would Carrie Fisher pick to play Princess Leia? Not only because of that, but she's also the greatest actress in the world. So yeah, I'm totally on board for that. I want that to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they're going to recast. I don't think Disney has the guts to recast Princess Leia. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I think we're just going to see them make a mistake and just say in the opening crawl, Princess Leia died last week in a shopping accident. Ooh, really? Princess Leia, this character we've been with since the beginning, and she gets written out of the series in an opening crawl? Really? That's how we're going to treat Princess Leia. That's how we're going to treat the legacy of Carrie Fisher. Yeah, and I think that's what they're going to do. And I think it's dumb. I think it's a bad move. But hey, it is what it is. Luis Santos writes, just got finished watching Ready Player One and it was awesome. That being said, would you consider it the best live-action video game movie seeing as it contains so many video game IPs? No. Look, make no mistake about this. Ready Player One is not a video game movie. A video game, neither is Wreck-It Ralph. A video game movie is when, hey, there's a video game. And then they go, let's make a movie out of this video game. That's a video game movie. A movie that has a theme of video games in it does not make it a video game movie. All right? Much like, say, The Incredibles is not a comic book movie. There wasn't a comic book called The Incredibles and they go, oh, let's make a movie out of that. No, it's not a comic book movie. Wreck-It Ralph was not a video game first that they went and go, oh, let's make a movie out of that game. That's what a video game movie is. Ready Player One is not a video game movie. It was not taken from a video game that go, oh, let's make a movie out of that game. Yes, they have references to lots of video games in it, sure, but that doesn't make it a video game movie. So I would not consider it a video game movie at all, not in the least. If there was this big, long-standing franchise, Ready Player One, the video game series, and then they made a movie out of that, and this was the movie we got, then yes, I would say it's the greatest video game movie of all time. But to me, it just doesn't meet the definition of what a video game movie is. It was not based on a pre-existing video game. That's what a video game movie is. Much like a movie that's based on a comic book, that's what a comic book movie is. So I don't personally consider it that. And it's cool if you do, that's great. But by my definition, it's not a video game movie to me. Dylan Trost writes, did you watch / like Lost, including the ending? I did watch Lost. I enjoyed Lost. I even liked part of the final season, but no, I was not a fan of how it ended. I wasn't a fan of how it ended. Doesn't take away from how good the show is. I like the show a lot. But they started to lose me. The episode where that show started to lose me was the episode when they explained the black smoke monster. Once they did that, it started to lose me. I didn't realize it at the time, but upon reflection, that's when that show started to lose me. So yeah. Let's see. Senor Eric writes, hey John, can you recommend some classics in film? Well, I mean, the ones I'll always go to, if somebody says, hey John, I'm looking to watch some films that are over like 40 years old, what should I go with? Here's the staples I go with, all right? You're going to want to watch Ben-Hur. You're going to want to watch the original Spartacus with Kirk Douglas. You're going to want to watch Lawrence of Arabia. And you're going to want to watch Bridge on the River Kwai. Those are the ones that I usually point to first. Go check out those and thank me later. Those are the ones to go check out. Go check them out and thank me later. Benny95 writes, hey John, is Ready Player One one of your top 10 Spielberg films? I'd have to think about it. I'm going to guess it probably is in the top 10. Again, I haven't sat down to make a list to see if it actually bumps some others out, but I'd have to think about it. My guess is going to be yes, but don't hold me to that. I'd have to think about it. Raymond Virata writes, Ready Player One spoiler review, please. I was going to do one tomorrow, but I forgot. I'm not going to be home. I'm actually, it's Anne's birthday weekend, so we're going to leave as soon as I'm done the John Campea show in the morning. But I will probably do a spoiler review, even though it's going to be pretty late. I will probably do a spoiler review on Monday for Ready Player One. Let's see. Jake C. writes, favorite game besides poker? That already got asked. Who Flung Poo writes, should be the Borg versus McEnroe, Resistance to Futon. That would be a movie. We were talking a little bit earlier today about an upcoming April movie called Borg versus McEnroe, which I cannot wait to see with Shia LaBeouf, and Stellan Skarsgård is in it as well. Fantastic film. And I've been telling people, look forward to this, anticipate it, blah, 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 blah. But this is great. Should be called The Borg versus McEnroe. That would be a great movie. John McEnroe fighting off the Borg to save Earth. Anthony Fana writes, John, love your show. Thank you so much. Favorite YouTuber. With that being said, baseball players are athletes. Baseball is a sport. Keep up the fantastic work. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm glad you love it. They're not to me, but hey, that's just me. I'm glad you enjoy it. And thank you for watching the show. I appreciate that. Let's see. Daniel Benavidez writes, I saw Ready Player One last night. Great movie. What genre does it fall in for you? I think it's hard not to call it a video game movie. Thoughts? I think it's impossible to call it a video game movie. You can't call it a video game movie because it's not a video game movie. It's not based on a video game. Not a video game movie. I'd call it action adventure. I would call the movie action adventure. You could also say sci-fi. I mean, I guess by the literal definition of what science fiction is, you could say that. I'll stick with fantasy adventure. But that's a really good question, because there are a lot of different slots, Daniel, that you could probably slide that movie into as far as genres go. I hadn't really thought about that, but you probably could many. Again, my first gut reaction is to say fantasy adventure. That's how I'll go at any rate. Thunder Knight 19 writes, bigger mistake with the X-Men franchise, underusing Cyclops, or overusing Mystique. Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to go the overusing of Mystique, because the underusing of Cyclops was a mistake. But you had Famke Janssen, you had Hugh Jackman, you had Patrick Stewart, you had Magneto, you had enough powerhouse actors and characters around to, even though it was a mistake to underuse Cyclops, you had enough powerhouse actors around to pick up the slack of that, and you still ended up with this great franchise, the X-Men, especially X-Men 1 and 2, and X-Men Days of Future Past and whatever. Anyway, but when you take Mystique, who is a C-level X-Men character, not even a B-level, like C-level X-Men character, has no business being in the role she is, but Jennifer Garner's the hot actress. Let's make her character the most important one. Whee! That's when you start to ruin movies. Anyway, by making her the focal point of the movies, that takes away from screen time and attention that should have been on other characters. Like with the Cyclops example, yeah, it creates slack, but there were enough heavy hitters there to pick up the slack. With Jennifer Lawrence, and I don't blame Jennifer Lawrence for this. This is on the writers and the producers of the movie. This isn't on Jennifer Lawrence. With Jennifer Lawrence's character, with her Mystique character being the focal point of the movies, she took up all the attention and took up all this screen time and everything that should have been dedicated to other characters. And so I'll say for that reason that was the bigger mistake. Ali Hussein writes, love your show. Thank you so much. Is Ready Player One going to be remembered as a classic just like Steven Spielberg's other films in 20 years? Impossible to say. I mean, look, I love the movie right now, but maybe I'm forgetting all about it in 6 months. I mean, we've all seen movies we love, and they have that great initial impact on us, but then it just kind of fades away. It doesn't have that staying power. And really, the only way you can tell is with time. You have to give it time to see, like, when I saw Shawshank Redemption, I knew it was awesome. But it wasn't until years and years and years and decades passed that you realized, no, that's one of the greatest films of all time, man. That's like all-time classic filmmaking right there. You need time. No matter what we think of the movie right now, we got to give it time. So maybe it'll be considered one of the all-time Spielberg classics, but honestly, we're not going to know for minimum, at least another 5 years. We'll start to get an idea about that. And then we'll see. All right, next one up is The Hammer 531, who writes, John, genuine thanks for all you do. We appreciate you and your hard work. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Why has it been so difficult to Fox to adapt a Fantastic Four well? Because it's impossible. It's almost impossible to make a good movie about anything. It is nearly impossible to make a good movie. It's easy to make a movie. It's almost impossible to make a good one, and that's why we celebrate the good ones so much. That's why when like the MCU comes around, that just constantly seems to crank out great stuff. It's there. Everybody else struggles to make good movies, unless their names are Pixar. But even Pixar has swung and missed a couple of times, right? Like with Cars, for example. Even Pixar has swung and missed. It's difficult, and they've yet to find that right balance, that right formula to make it work. And they've struggled with it, man. They've struggled, but make no mistake about it. Like some people like to act like making a good movie is the easiest thing in the world. You know what? There's a reason you work at McDonald's. There's a reason you work road construction. There's a reason you work as an accountant. There's a reason you work as a trial assistant. There's a reason you work at that and you're not a professional filmmaker. You don't know the first thing about it. And neither do I. It is anybody who thinks, oh, it's just the easiest thing to make a good movie. No, it's not. It's impossible, man. That's why we revere and respect and give accolades to those who do it well, because it's tough. It's hard making a good movie. And just in particular, they've had trouble coming up with the right formula for Fantastic Four and to execute it right. And it's unfortunate, but someday somebody will do it right. Let's see here. Boy Chow Sang writes, who to use the most genuine person in Hollywood? I I have been very lucky to meet a couple of very genuine people. I would say the most genuine I've ever met are probably, well, you know, I'm going to put 3 in here, and they're all for the same reason. Because, you know, and I don't blame the actors for this at all. Never blame the actors for this. But, because actors will meet 1,000 reporters in a day, right? But 3 actors in particular really stand out to me. And, hold on a second. Just got to make sure about something here. 3 actors in particular really stand out to me. And you know what? Maybe even a 4th. Milo Ventimiglia is, who is, of course, was Peter Petrelli in Heroes. He's currently on This Is Us. He was nominated for an Emmy Award. He's fantastic. He was in Rocky V. He played Rocky's son in that. He's a big star right now, and I'm super glad to see that he's a big star. But, you know, I met him, and then I met him again. I met him once, and he was super nice to me. And then I met him again like 6 months later, and he saw me, walked over to me. John, how you doing? Like, remembered my name. Like, who does that? Like, I have a hard time remembering, like, my cousins' names. I mean, so, like, and I had met this dude one time, like 6 months ago, walks up, John, how you doing? Like, he didn't have to do that. And as a result of that, and then later on, because of him, I met my wife. It was through Milo that I met my wife. Milo and Mark Neville-Dean and Brian Taylor are the 3 guys, because they were all working on this movie together. They're the ones who led to me to meeting my wife. So there's that. Chris, I was almost going to say Chris Pine. Sorry, Chris Pratt, another Chris P. Chris Pratt. He comes into my studio once. It was the first time I ever met him. We did this thing. I met him once briefly at a Zero Dark 30 premiere, but it was just only for the briefest of seconds. So again, 6 months later, I walk into a press junket. He's already met like with 50 other journalists that day. I walk in. First thing Chris Pratt says to me, John, how you doing? I'm like, good, man. And then even goes, how's Anne? He even remembered my wife's name. I remember I was blown away by that. First of all, I was blown away that he even remembered my name, recognized me and remembered my name. And said, John, how you doing? I'm like, good, man. And then he immediately goes, how's Anne? Because he met Anne. And then that was like 6 months previous, and he remembered her. And I just remembered I was so thoroughly impressed with the dude at that. The fact that he even gives a crap about who's this nobody's name and that nobody's wife. I mean, and yet he remembered, made mention of it. I remember I walked out of my interview with him, and I texted Anne. I said, first thing Chris Pratt asked me is, how's Anne? And she texted like by name? I said, yeah. He said, how's Anne? And she just like sent all these like swearing things, like she was freaking out, right? Just amazing. Another guy who was like that was why am I Zach Braff. Zach, why am I forgetting Zach's name? Hold a second. I only talk about him all the time. Zac Efron. Thank you. Zac Efron. It was another guy. I met him once at a press interview, a press junket for me and Orson Welles. Run into him again at an after party for a screening 3 years later of a screening that wasn't even there for his movie. It was a movie his girlfriend at the time was in, right? So his girlfriend was in this movie. There was a special screening, then kind of a little reception after party. And he was there, and he walks up to me, he goes, hey, John. And I'm like, we met like once 3 years ago. And so that impressed me. And the other is Jessica Chastain. Jessica Chastain just made me blush, like completely blush. Because I met her talking with, it was her and Octavia Spencer I was talking to for The Help. And we talked about going to Vegas and Octavia Spencer or something about making me pancakes or something. And it was something, I can't remember the story exactly. I told the story before and I'm forgetting it. But anyway, the next time I saw Jessica Chastain, which was like a year or two later, she goes, oh, you're a Vegas pancake guy. I'm like, oh my God, totally blush. Anyway, so those are some of the most like really genuine people that I've had to meet. Now, I don't know a lot of these people personally. For all I know, they're dirtbags, like away from all that. But just the fact that they care enough and think you're not just some useless piece of human trash, you're a human being, and to know your name and to think, I mean, remember your name is worth something to them. That's kind of genuine to me. So to me, those are some of the names that stand out to me the most. Let's see. Simon Hansen, just got about 5 or 6 more to go here. Simon Hansen writes, hey, John, any news about the Vince McMahon biopic? People are asking me about that all the time. I haven't heard anything new about it at all. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't actually happen until like sometime after Vince McMahon passes away, but I've not heard anything new about it in the last like a year, to be honest with you. Uchiha Obito writes, Batman versus Dominic Toretto. Your call, Mr. Campea. Yeah, because it's like, look, Batman versus anybody short of Jesus, Batman wins. But the writers of Fantastic and the Furious. There's a movie for you. The writers of Fast and the Furious, I mean, Dominic Toretto could fight an earthquake. Not the WWE wrestler earthquake. I mean, a literal earthquake. The San Andreas Fault smashes and the earthquake. Dominic Toretto could fight the earthquake and win if it's written by the Fast and Furious director. It's absolutely crazy. Galactus could attack Earth and Dominic Toretto would win that fight. So it all depends on who's writing it. If a Fast and the Furious writer is writing it, Dominic Toretto could take on the entire Justice League with a monkey wrench. He would take them all out. He can take a Superman, Cyborg, Flash, everybody. He'll beat Flash in a race. He'll outswim Aquaman. He'll out Truth Lasso Wonder Woman. He'll out Batarang Batman. He'll, be stronger than Superman. He'll beat everybody. So there's that. Benny95 writes, thoughts on Lord of the Rings Extended Edition, 3 hours plus each. Well, I'm glad they weren't those cuts in the theater. Actually, they're some of them close to 4 hours, if I'm not mistaken. I liked them, but I really love the theatrical cut as well. Already being a big fan of the movie, it's cool seeing the extra footage. But I think the theatrical cuts were the right cuts to put out theatrically. But I do like them. I like them as they are. Tom Gillard writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Tom. I've always wondered, what's the difference between green screen and blue screen? Wouldn't any solid color work? Well, really, it's just a matter of preference because green screening and blue screening, it's all the same thing. It's really just keying. You're keying out the background. What you got to be careful though is you got to make sure you have the background that isn't similar to any other color you have in your shot. So for instance, right now, if I put a blue screen behind me, blue screens work great, but if I were to put a blue screen behind me right now, I'd have 2 problems. One is obviously this shirt, so it's going to key me out too. Also, I have blue eyes. I mean, that sounds silly, but I have blue eyes. That could become an issue in getting a good key. And I think what they just found was that more and more green became the easier color to use. Because like for me right now, there's nothing on me remotely green. So a green screen for me would be the right key of choice. But sometimes a blue screen would be better. So sometimes they use both. Yes, you could use almost any color, but you can't use red because if you're Caucasian like me, there's red tones in your skin. It makes it, you can still do it, but it makes it a little bit more of a difficult thing to pull a key. So that's why green and blue are their ones and why green has become kind of the one of choice. Okay, Spencer Smothers writes, some people think that Marvel bringing back the Fantastic Four comics hints of Fantastic Four entering the MCU sooner than we thought. What are your thoughts? Nope, they're absolutely dead wrong. They're dead wrong. That deal's not even complete yet. Kevin Feige's already addressed the fact that they're not even thinking. They can't even think about it. And they can't have any collusion right now, or else the government would stomp on them. So no, that theory is absolute. This isn't a subjective opinion sort of thing. It's factual. That is dead wrong. Them bringing back the comic books, maybe that alludes to them having plans for the Fantastic Four in the future. Maybe that. But it does not indicate they're coming back any sooner because they're not allowed. Legally, they can't. So no, all that is way far off. Still way far off. And the final question today comes to us from Ben Rayner, who writes, I don't envy Disney and Lucasfilm with the Leia decision they have to do. Yeah, because honestly, the right decision is to recast Leia. However, that's not going to be popular with everybody. But then the alternative is just taking the Leia character and writing her out in a off-screen event? Really? So, look, the right decision is to recast. It's just that simple. Other people may disagree, and that's totally fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. To me, it's clear-cut night and day. Recasting is the right decision. it's what Carrie Fisher would want. I totally believe it. Now, of course, look, if Carrie Fisher's family, in particular her daughter, if Carrie Fisher's daughter didn't want Leia recast, I pull my thing off the table. If Carrie Fisher's daughter says, I don't want Princess Leia recast, then I rescind everything I've said. You got to respect family. But I believe she is cool with it, especially if you get somebody who's close with her mother, like a Meryl Streep, who's also the greatest actress in the world. I believe she's all for it. But if she's not, then I take it off the table. But you're right. Disney faces a no-win situation. There's nothing that Disney can do right now that's going to make everybody happy. No matter what decision they make about the Leia character, it's going to make some people unhappy. And that's unfortunate that they're in that position, but it is the position that they're in. All right, guys, that will do it for this installment of our companion videos, getting you all caught up on the questions that were sent in line on the John Campea Show and Open Mic. Thanks a lot for joining me, guys. That'll do it for me for now. My name's John Campea. Thanks for joining me, and until our next video, bye-bye.